Welcome to I Am Legend. This movie asks a simple question. If you're the last normal person left, are you still normal? So the movie opens with a news segment explaining that cancer has been cured, which is great. Always a strong start when humanity solves its biggest problem in 5 minutes. And of course, the cure is a virus. We modified something in the lab and it will definitely be fine. Cut to 3 years later, and New York looks like it lost a bet with nature. Grass everywhere, cars abandoned, deer just casually walking through Times Square like they pay rent now. And then we met Robert Neville, played by Will Smith, who is apparently the last man alive. Or at least the last one who hasn't turned into a screaming night creature. His daily routine is basically wake up, work out, talk to himself, talk to mannequins, and pretend this is still a normal life. Which, yeah, that's about where we're at. He lives in a heavily fortified house because at night the infected come out. And these things are not chill. They're bald, pale, allergic to sunlight, and scream like they auditioned for a horror movie they already got cast in. So yeah, vampires. We made vampires. Good job, science. During the day, Neville goes out scavenging with his dog Sam, who is the only mentally stable character in this entire movie. They hunt deer in the middle of Manhattan, which feels illegal, but I guess laws stopped existing a while ago. And this is where the movie really commits to the loneliness, because Neville is talking to mannequins. Not like talking, full conversations. He's setting them up in stores, giving them personalities, probably judging them when they don't respond correctly. Anyway, Neville is also a scientist, and he's trying to fix the mess human created. So he spends his days capturing infected people and experimenting on them in his basement. He also broadcasts a daily radio message. Hello, can anybody hear me? I can provide food, shelter, security. Basically Craigslist for the apocalypse. Same day, every day. Which is either hopeful or the world's longest voicemail. We also start getting flashbacks to how everything went wrong. Turns out that miracle cancer cure mutated. Shocking. Suddenly it's airborne, it spreads everywhere, and most of humanity either dies or turns into these creatures. Neville was in the military, trying to evacuate his family. And this is where the movie hits you with the emotional setup early. His wife and daughter get into a helicopter, it crashes immediately, like the movie didn't even consider giving them a break. So now he's alone, in an empty city. Back in the present, Neville starts noticing something weird. The infected he captures aren't completely mindless. They react, they hesitate, they almost recognize things. But he kind of brushes this off because he's still operating under the assumption that he's the only one thinking clearly. Which is a bold assumption for someone arguing with plastic people. And that's basically where the movie sets its foundation. One guy, one dog, one city. The movie is correctly setting up that he might actually be the problem, but we will let him figure that out the hard way. So at this point, Neville is still running his daily routine, like this is just a long, inconvenient Tuesday. Go out during the day, hunt, scavenge, kidnap someone for science, go home before the dark. Very normal stuff. But now he's getting a little too comfortable. And this is where the movie quietly flips perspective without telling you. Anyway, he sets up this whole elaborate trap using a snare, which works. He catches her, sedates her, mission accomplished. Except not really. Because right after that, things start getting weird. Neville notices one of his mannequins, Fred, has been moved outside. Just standing there, in the open. Now remember, this man has been talking to mannequins for months or years. So his first reaction isn't someone is there, it's Fred! And yeah, this is the moment where even Neville starts to feel something off. Because he didn't move it. And mannequins, ideally, don't move themselves. So instead of backing away slowly like a normal human being, he walks right up to it. Of course he does. And immediately gets caught in a trap. A very human trap. Which is when the movie goes, oh yeah, by the way, they're learning. Neville gets slammed upside down, and now he's just hanging there like a piñata for night creatures. And the sun is going down, which is not ideal. At all. So now we got this whole sequence of him trying to free himself while slowly realizing these things aren't just mindless anymore. Someone set up that trap, someone moved Fred, someone is paying attention. And unfortunately for Neville, that someone is not friendly. Night hits, the infected start coming out, and they barely escape back to the car. And when I say barely, I mean they're seconds away from being dinner. They get back to the house, lock everything down, and for a second it feels like they made it. Cool, safe, alive. Movie could chill for 5 minutes. But no, because Sam got scratched. Of course he did. Because the movie looked at the only good thing in Neville's life and said, yeah, we're taking that too. She's infected. And this scene is honestly one of the few times the movie stops joking around entirely. Because Neville knows exactly what's coming. He tries to comfort her, tries to pretend it's not happening, and then she starts turning. And he has to choke her to death, which is, yeah. That's the moment the movie fully breaks him. Up until now, he was holding it together. Routine, structure, science. Now, that's gone. And you can literally see the switch flip. Because the next thing he does is possibly the worst decision in the entire movie. He grabs a gun and goes out at night, alone. Into a city full of creatures that are faster, stronger, and already tried to kill him once. No plan, no strategy, just pure, I have nothing left, let's see what happens. And what happens is exactly what you'd expect. Basically trying a 1v100 a species that already has a number advantage. And yeah, it goes badly. Very quickly. He gets surrounded, overwhelmed, and is about 2 seconds away from dying. And honestly, that would have been it. That's the end of the movie right there. Roll credits. Except suddenly, a bright light cuts through the darkness. A car. Which is already shocking, because that means there are other people. Actual people, not mannequins, not affected, real humans. And they pull him out at the last second and drive off. Which is insane timing, but at this point, we will take it. Neville passes out, and for the first time in a long time, he's not alone. Which should be a good thing. But knowing this movie, it's probably about to get worse in a completely different way. So Neville wakes up, and for a second probably thinks he finally lost it completely. Because there are actually humans in his house. Not mannequins, not hallucinations, real people. Which at this point is basically a plot twist. We get introduced to Anna and this kid Ethan. And Neville's first reaction isn't belief, it's suspicion. Which honestly makes sense. If you spend years talking to plastic store employees, you don't just trust new arrivals immediately. Anna explains she heard his radio broadcast, which means those daily "hello, anyone alive" messages actually worked. Incredible. She says they've been traveling, and there's a survivor colony in Vermont. Safe place, people, community. Basically everything Neville has convinced himself doesn't exist. And Neville immediately shuts that down, hard. He's like, nope, doesn't exist, you're wrong, sit down. Which is funny because his entire worldview is based on, I haven't seen it, therefore it isn't real. Meanwhile, he's been holding conversations with mannequins named Fred. So maybe, just maybe, we don't fully trust his judgment here. But Neville is locked in. To him, this is simple. Everyone else is gone, he's the last one, his job is to fix this. End of discussion. Anna, on the other hand, is running on pure belief, which Neville treats like it's a personality flaw. She talks about God guiding her, leading her to him, giving them purpose. Neville hears that and immediately goes, yeah, okay, that's nice, but I prefer science. Which turns the dynamic into faith versus logic. Except both of them are extremely stubborn about it. Meanwhile, Ethan is just there, quietly witnessing two adults argue about the apocalypse like it's a debate club. Now, while all this is happening, Neville is still working on his cure. Because despite everything, he's actually getting closer. He's been testing different compounds, running experiments on affected subjects and slowly refining the formula. Which, credit where it's due, this man has been alone for years and is still doing lab work. Most people would have given up and started naming rocks by now. So he takes the infected female he captured earlier and starts testing again. And this time, something changes. Her vitals stabilize, her aggression drops. For the first time, it actually looks like it might work. Like he might have just found a real cure. And this is the part where the movie almost lets him win. Almost. Because outside, things are escalating. The infected aren't just randomly attacking anymore, they are organizing. And leading them is the alpha male, who at this point is very clearly not just some mindless creature. This guy has been observing Neville, tracking him, learning from him, and most importantly, he wants the female back. Which again, from Neville's perspective, test subject. On their perspective, you kidnapped someone and took her into your murder basement. So yeah, tensions are rising. And Neville still doesn't fully get it. He's so focused on the cure, on being the guy who saves humanity, that he's missing what's right in front of him. The alpha male steps forward, sees the female inside, and loses it. Starts slamming into the glass, trying to break in. At first, it just looks like rage, basic monster behavior. But then something small happens, and Neville sees it. And you can literally watch his brain start buffering, because suddenly, this doesn't look like mindless creatures anymore. This looks like a connection. Like they actually care about each other, which is not part of Neville's entire worldview. Because his whole thing has been, they're gone, there's nothing left of them. But now, that's getting real shaky. It feels targeted. Like they know exactly what they want. And it's not him, it's her. And Neville is just standing there, realizing that he might not be the hero of the story. Which is a rough thing to process while your house is getting overrun. And then we get the moment that flips everything. Neville looks at the female again. Really looks this time. Not as a problem to solve, but as someone they're trying to save. And that's when it clicks, fully. He's not their cure, he's their nightmare. And the only question now is, what does he do with that? And then he does something that feels very illegal for a main character. He gives her back. Just hands her over. No speech, no dramatic music, no this is for humanity, just, yeah, I think I messed up. The alpha steps forward, takes her, and instead of immediately turning Neville into a memory, he stops, looks at him, and you can feel the entire situation just pauses. Because this was never about killing Neville, it was about getting her back. And now that they have her, there's no reason to keep fighting. So the infected slowly back off. No final boss fight, no explosions, no heroic last stand, they just leave. Which is honestly way more unsettling, because it confirms everything. They weren't mindless, they weren't just monsters, they had a goal. And Neville wasn't aware of it. That's it. So the house goes quiet. And for the first time in the movie, the danger just stops. Not because Neville won, but because he finally understood what was happening. Which is a very different kind of victory. Or loss, depending on how you look at it. He wasn't curing mindless creatures, he was interfering with something he didn't fully understand. Which is kind of how this whole mess started in the first place. So Neville finally agrees to leave, takes Anna and Ethan, gets in the car, and they drive out of New York, which after everything feels almost weirdly calm. No last second attack, just leaving. Like the city is done with him. And honestly, it probably is. That lands a lot harder than the original ending where he just blows himself up and calls it a day. That version feels way more earned, because sometimes the scariest thing isn't the monster outside, it's realizing he might have been one of them the whole time. Anyways, the next movie gets even dumber. It's the Super Mario movie, where plumbing is a career path and physics is optional. Yay!
Well, yeah, that wraps up that awfully long movie. Hope you enjoyed and let me know what movie you want to see in the future. Alright, that's it for now. If you like this disaster of a recap, feel free to click some buttons, or don't. I'm not your dad, so that YouTube knows that my videos are worth watching. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.